Jordan Kid here, back again. Welcome back to the channel. And today, guys, with the ESPN 30 for 30 coming up, called Be Walter, which is centered around one of my idols, Bruce Lee, I thought, you know what? It's time to do something for the channel for him. And this comes from Top Trending, called 10 Things You Did Not Know About Bruce Lee. And I'm not gonna be like one of those guys like, man, I know everything about Bruce Lee. Get out. You always learning, always finding something new about people that you respect and admire, and try to kind of live vicariously with or through, you know. So yeah, we're gonna check this out. I'm looking forward to it. We're just gonna run through the whole video. I'm not gonna skip anything, but let's do this. Here we go. Now,
as amazing as Bruce Lee was at martial arts, the man had mastered so many forms, he had to create his own, called Jeet Kune Do, just to keep himself challenged. But there was far more to the man than his fighting skills. Here are 10 interesting facts you never knew about Bruce Lee. This is one of the craziest stories you'll ever hear, and unfortunately, it may also be the reason Bruce Lee died so young. Several months before he died, Lee chose to remove his sweat glands from his armpits. This was purely an aesthetic choice, as he felt his sweaty pits looked bad on screen. So he had them removed, which is something you probably thought couldn't be done. As it turns out, it's something you shouldn't do. Sweat glands, particularly those around the armpits, help to control body heat. Without them, the body has a much harder time handling heat and is much more susceptible to heat stroke. This appears to have happened in May of 1973, when Lee collapsed in a studio that was not running its air conditioner. He suffered a cerebral edema and nearly died on the spot. Doctors saved his life that day, but they weren't so fortunate on July 20th of that year. It was one of the hottest days in recent Hong Kong memory, and Lee was moving and jumping around like a big ball of energy. He complained of a headache later in the day, he went to take a nap, and he never woke. Multiple conflicting reports make it nearly impossible to know for sure what killed Bruce Lee. But there's an extremely good chance he died of heat stroke due to the incredibly unwise decision to remove his own sweat glands. It may come as some surprise to you, but Bruce Lee was born absolutely loaded. Lee's father was a man named Lee Hoi Chun, an incredibly successful opera singer and actor. The senior Lee was in high demand as a star, often working on a half a dozen projects at once in both China and abroad. Meanwhile, Lee's mother, a woman named Grace Ho, came from money, as both her father and uncle were rich and successful philanthropist businessmen. So, when your family sports two Tony Starks, you're probably doing all right. It was during one of Lee Hoi Chun's tours of America that Bruce Lee, known to his birth certificate as Lee Jun Fan, entered the world. Since he was born while his father was acting, it made sense for the young Lee to act as well, and so he had his first screen debut at the age of 3 months. By the time he was 18, Bruce Lee had appeared in over 20 films. You can see why, by the time Enter the Dragon came to be, Lee was more than ready to embrace superstardom. In so many ways, he was raised to be that way.
Yeah, that's not secret. That's known.
Ever, but even he had to learn at some point. He did just that, and at the foot of one of the best ever, no less. Bruce Lee's first master was the famous Ip Man. That said, he was only Ip Man's student for a short while, technically. You see, Lee enrolled in Ip's Hong Kong school at age 13. Soon, the other students started voicing their displeasure at the young student simply because he was not fully Chinese. That's right, despite being one of the most famous Asians ever, Bruce Lee was only 75% Chinese. The remaining 25% was a mixed heritage, including Caucasian. To put it in Harry Potter terms, Lee was a mudblood, and the purebloods in Ip's class weren't having it. Some of the students began to pressure Ip Man to expel Lee or risk losing them. Lee did not want his teacher to go through that, so he left voluntarily. Luckily for Lee, Ip Man was more Dumbledore than Voldemort, and saw the potential in Lee his students did not. He offered private, off-campus lessons to Lee for the next several years, stopping only when Lee was 18 and had proved himself capable of winning a fight against almost anybody.
I know about this. Yeah, he did want to fight. He did want to fight Muhammad Ali. He loved Muhammad Ali though.
It wasn't for lack of desire. On the contrary, Lee wanted little more than to see if he was greater than the greatest. Like most people who saw Ali in action, Bruce Lee was a huge fan.
Yes, he was a huge boxing fan.
Ali's skill, brutality, and charisma. He was the total package, and Lee actually learned a lot from him. In the 1987 book, The Making of Enter the Dragon, the director of Enter the Dragon, Robert Klaus, described how Lee would watch Ali's fights and attempt to emulate what the greatest did. He would mirror what Ali did in the ring, hoping to learn some of his moves and adapt them for the martial arts circuit. This was also to prepare for what Lee felt was an inevitable confrontation between the two. He knew that fans desperately wanted to see Lee and Ali go at it, and Lee was all for it. That said, he harbored little expectation about coming out on top. Even as he trained himself to emulate Ali's moves, he confided to a friend, "Look at my hand. That's a little Chinese hand. He'd kill me." It's highly likely that Lee would have held his own had the fight actually happened. Perhaps he may have even found a way to come out on top. Unfortunately, Lee passed away before any such fight could take place, leaving the debate forever unanswered, except in dreamers' minds. It's morbidly poetic that Bruce Lee died while filming a movie called The Game of Death. It's just plain morbid that footage of his dead body actually made an appearance in the film.
What?
Since Lee didn't finish the planned movie, much of the shot footage no longer made sense. Therefore, director Robert Klaus essentially had to rewrite the thing and did so in a novel manner. The finished movie's plot revolves around Lee's character, played by a stand-in, getting shot in the face. He gets plastic surgery and fakes his own death in order to covertly seek revenge against those who attempted to murder him. To make it seem like he was dead, Lee's character staged his own open casket wake. But this scene involved no stand-in. Instead, Bruce Lee himself was in the casket, as the footage was from his real-life wake. To watch this film knowing you're watching a dead person play a living person pretending to be dead is pretty surreal, and perhaps more than a little discomforting. That said, it's an enjoyable film, and perhaps due to Klaus having worked with Lee in the past, using footage of his body doesn't feel exploitative. Rather, it makes sense given the storyline and comes across as a loving, if not somewhat weird, tribute to the fallen martial arts master.
I know about this.
That Bruce Lee was an amazing martial artist simply because he was born that way. He certainly had gifts, including speed and a natural knack for learning how to fight.
Him and Steve McQueen right there.
Anywhere if he didn't practice. Unlike many of us, however, Bruce Lee didn't seem to know when to stop training. At his peak, he would train for up to 18 hours a day. Assuming he actually slept, it's possible he ate his meals while punching or kicking something. Speaking of his punches, his legendary fists were almost beyond comprehension. He was lightning quick and had such strength behind his strikes, he could knock people over with a single finger. This was largely due to how he would practice an incredible 5,000 punches every day.
5,000 punches a day.
Punching was all but
what
second nature to him. It's highly possible he
Who does that?
As he practiced them. Hey, do you think he forced himself to start over if any of his punches stunk? It would make sense, since the man was dedicated to the point of near lunacy.
Now I know about this too. Yeah, he wasn't seeking
Bruce Lee
fame.
was born to be a star. His family was rich, and he appeared in 20-something movies before leaving his teenage years. But that doesn't mean he chased fame. He was simply so good at what he did, fame naturally followed. He revealed as such in a 1971 interview with Canadian author Pierre Berton. His goals were training in martial arts and were never to become famous, but rather simply to become better at his art. He craved the knowledge, strength, fitness and discipline that training brought him. Since he also enjoyed acting, he wished to use his films to spread the word about the benefits of martial arts training. He just so happened to get super famous along the way. Despite being relegated to a supporting role in the short-lived TV show Green Hornet, his native China loved the show and promoted him as the star. That helped him score his first leading role in the film The Big Boss. Within a couple of years, he was a superstar on the verge of mega-stardom with the upcoming release of 1973's Enter the Dragon. Lee's passing that year made it so he never got to enjoy the fruits of mega-stardom, but since he spent his life doing what he loved anyway, it's safe to say...
The sound effects that part makes is hilarious. Yeah, he did give Chuck Norris his first role.
Chuck Norris wasn't a world-famous movie star or a memified vision of uber manliness. At one time, he was an unknown, struggling actor like so many others. He had two things going for him that others did not. For one, he was already really good at martial arts, but perhaps more importantly, Bruce Lee was his real-life friend. This friendship helped to jumpstart Norris's acting career in 1968. His buddy Lee was working as a stunt coordinator, and his latest assignment was the Dean Martin spy comedy, The Wrecking Crew. Lee knew Norris was trying to break into acting, so he used his influence to get Norris his first ever movie role. Now, Bruce did not nab Chuck a lead role, or even a supporting one. He was just a stunt coordinator after all. Instead, good old Chuck appears in exactly one scene, as a nameless thug whom Martin's character quickly beats up. Norris's only line is a single karate yell before getting kicked in the mush. But hey, we all have to start somewhere, and this single scene turned into an extremely profitable career, as well as a strange bit of fame, where the internet celebrates you for supposedly being a baby who slapped the doctor. We're not sure what Bruce would have thought about the second part, but we know he'd be proud of his friend for the first. Bruce Lee's life revolved around training, right? Even when it came time to be romantic and start a family, it only happened because of martial arts and training. While in college, Bruce would hold training classes for local high schoolers. It was a much more natural fit than paying his tuition by selling ice cream, for sure. As it turns out, one of his students was a girl named Linda Emery, who only signed up at the behest of one of her classmates. It wound up being a wise decision. Student and teacher hit it off quickly, and the relationship soon turned romantic. After 3 years of courtship, the two were married. We'd say this means she passed the course. The couple had 2 children, Brendan and Shannon, before Bruce's passing. Tragically, Brendan also died young while shooting a scene for the movie The Crow, though Shannon and Linda carry the family legacy to this day as martial artists in their own rights. Despite being the picture of perfect health and clean living, Bruce Lee had his vices. Most notably, he loved cannabis and hashish, but rather than simply smoke the stuff, he chose to chew it. What's more, his strain of choice was Nepalese hashish, which is one of the most
Okay, I didn't know that.
Still, he didn't use tobacco or alcohol, so he had that going for him. His use of hashish and cannabis only increased in the final years of his life. In 1970, he suffered a major back injury and could only control the pain by chewing on strong hash. As you might expect, traces of the drug were found in his system after he died in 1973. It obviously didn't kill him, but hopefully it helped him drift off into that good night peacefully and painlessly.
I didn't know that one. I did not know that. That number one, that caught me. Like, whoa, okay. Bottom line is, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and maybe learned some new stuff about the man known as Bruce Lee. I'm looking forward to the 30 for 30, documentary that's going to be on ESPN called Be Water. So I'm really looking forward to that. Guys, I make no qualms about it. Yes, I'm a huge Bruce Lee fan, and I respect a lot of things that he had accomplished and a lot of things that his legacy still is accomplishing today. And I hate when, people do get like things about him wrong, or so, certain things like, he was just an arrogant prick. Shannon Lee, his daughter, did not like the depiction of him in Quentin Tarantino's last movie, and I stand with her on that. Like, that's the woman's father. Like, how would you feel? Who knew her better? Who knew her father? Who knew him better than his own daughter? So, and I did see that scene. I watched that scene, and I'm like, Mike Moll, who played the character, did a great job. I'm not going to deny that, but I'm not going to sit there and say, like, I don't know the man personally. I didn't know the man personally, but I cannot sit there and believe that the man was that arrogant. The way he talked, and I was just like, nah, that's not Lee. That's not Mr. Lee. The thing about Muhammad Ali, yes, that's true. One of his students, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, would always talk about, yeah, Bruce, he loved, especially American boxers, especially African American boxers. You know, Sugar Ray Robinson, all them cats. You know, Ali definitely, Joe Louis, and all them. He loved those guys, and he really studied just the sheer power of those boxers, like how they moved. And Ali is definitely one of them that he really looked at, like, whoa, okay, this guy, and the way he moved, how the power and everything like that, his fighting spirit, his hygiene, you know. So yeah, but this was fun. This was a lot to read and look into. Still to this day, this man is still iconic. You know, this man has been gone out of this world for now, what, over 40 some years now, about 40, and he is still looked at as being one of those icons that we all want to achieve, kind of that enlightenment that he wasn't just a martial artist, he was a philosopher. Have you ever read any of his philosophy books, just in general? Just the quotes and the philosophy of, not in terms of just martial arts, but just in life, how to carry oneself, things like that. I love that stuff, and I love him for that. With that being said, guys, once again, stay tuned, be safe, stay positive, peace, one love, as always. Deuces.